Hi, my name is Bryan Heemskerk, and I'm going to be talking to you about art that I'm doing for the Great Zoo Escape. So these are a couple time-lapse paintings that I've done, where what I'm actually doing right now is I took a sketch that I did on paper while I was looking at a little bit of reference of just some birds, not necessarily art from other games. It's usually I look at the animals themselves, and then I start blocking in things. So you'll see I start building layers, and I'm blocking in the colors, and I'm really just separating everything and making sure that I'll be able to animate it later and paint it properly. So next thing you'll see me doing is just kind of like an underlayer where I'm painting in a lot of the texturing and a little bit of lighting, not accurate lighting by any means, but just something to give a little bit of sense of three-dimensionality to it. So, I go to the beak, I move around, I make sure that I separate my layers, and then I make clipping masks and things. So you'll continue to see, like in this video specifically, I'm painting the two birds for the bird room, and then I will be going to paint the bird room. So anyways, basically now you have me going in and adding details, texturing, all of these things. Like I know it's going really fast, but I'm pretty sure most people don't want to sit for a couple-hour video because this is basically about 12 to 14 hours of painting in 10 minutes. So I mean, it's cool to see the results fast, but I am sure if you wanted a more direct idea of how to paint, like zooming in and knowing exactly when these strokes are happening. So now I'm moving on to the parrot, which is basically the exact same thing, where I'm moving in, I'm kind of separating the layers, I'm blocking in my colors, and then I'm slowly adding my lights and shadows and textures and details. So anyways, right now I'm doing the dark underlayers, a little bit of reflected light just to get some sense of three-dimensionality, pulling in a color layer, adding the green and the blue and the wings, doing highlights, and then I look at it and I'm like, it's looking a little, I don't know, not three-dimensional enough. So you'll see I'll add more textures and details. I'll check my the other bird, make sure that the style is in sync with it, that they look like they could be in the same room together. You'll see me unifying the shadows and doing like light overlays to tie some of the areas together. In general, like, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot I could say about these. I don't know if you have specific questions about what I'm doing. And, you'll see I copied and pasted the back leg, but then I'll paint it a little bit differently so that they're not exact clones of each other. You find ways to cheat as best you can, but most of it, in the end, is still kind of traditional painting. So this room I did a little bit different than the gorilla room in that I took the birds in there pretty soon. And then I started matching the room to the birds as opposed to the gorilla room where I painted the room and then I painted the gorilla and I put the gorilla in the room. And then I kind of painted the gorilla a little bit later to match the room a little bit better. So in this one I start kind of doing the opposite. Right now I'm blocking in, and you'll see that I'll steal a little bit from other paintings that I've done just to make it faster, but I will end up changing those assets before I'm done so that they're basically completely new materials. But I treat them a little bit like an underpainting when I steal them. So you'll see me just kind of sketch things in, try and figure out where the locations of things are. You'll see this is where I pulled the birds in, and I start just kind of stylistically like, how do I make it look like an environment that these two birds would sit in? So anyways, you'll see me blocking things in still, coming up with a little bit, like I'm pretty much at this point just conceptualizing what in my mind the area will look like. I did a sketch, but I've been doing sketches for this place a little bit more like, I'm not sure. I sketch not for a good sketch. I just sketch until I have an idea in my head of what the room is going to look like when it's painted. And then I kind of stop, scan the sketch, and start painting because I really don't have as much time as I would like to work on this game. So a lot of what I'm doing is speed painting for it. I'm trying to make things as quick as possible and as good in one pass as I can because I pretty much don't have time to go back and do another painting afterwards or do another layer. So, I mean, I hope that at the end there's a little bit of time for me to go back and just paint them up a little bit better to make them all look a little bit better, but I'm not sure if I'll have that opportunity. So it's really me trying to get one shot as best as I possibly can. So, I mean, I'm basically still blocking in the room to an extent, but I'm texturing things now. I'm giving a little bit of a sense of a feel of the room. You'll see I'm adding lights and highlights and things like that, and then I'm adding in just a little bit more depth. This is nowhere near the quality detail layer that comes on in the end. Like painting for me usually works in like an underpainting, and then I come in and I texture it and I give just an idea of the feel of it, and then I'll go and I'll make sure that I'm painting things up to the detail level that I want so that you can look at it closer and it'll hold up. So now you'll see me going in and basically doing a detail pass on everything. So I'll come in, I'll improve my lights and my shadows, anything that I think is proportionally off or just not, it's looking a little bit underpainted, then I'll paint it up more. So you'll see me do this with pretty much the entire room, little piece by little piece. I'll move around from thing to thing, and then I'll look at it as a whole, and then I'll move to a thing, and then I'll look at it as a whole, and I'll see what's really calling that, hey, I need a little bit more work. So in general, like, this is all art for the Great Zoo Escape, which is a game that me, my brother, and my sister are working on, and I have a programmer that I'm working with, and but basically the best thing about this game is that the walkthrough is kind of done for it at the beginning, so I could really just go in there and paint. So I could think up what these rooms would look like, and I knew the functions of them and the things that had to be in them for the game to be played, and then I could just focus on painting the art. I've worked on a lot of games in the past where I ended up basically having to throw away about 70% of my work, not due to quality, but because the game idea kept changing. So if the game idea keeps changing, then you end up throwing out a lot of art assets, not because they're bad art assets, but because there's no part of the game for that anymore. So anyways, in the painting process right now, you'll see me going in, adding details. I use some texture brushes just to fill in, but texture brushes I never find fill in things well enough. You always have to go back in and do some proper painting on top at the end. So right now I'm fixing a little bit of the proportions. I got a tip from one of my art friends that one of the walls was a little bit off, so I went in and I changed the shapes of things and stuff just to make sure that it's working in perspective. Most of the time I work out the perspective beforehand. I worked it out in the sketch, but I guess I had a decision where I thought one part of the room would go back further than I made it in the final, so I had to readjust the wall on the right to make up for that. You'll see me coming in with some foliage. I noticed that the bowl was slightly warped when I flipped the canvas, so I went in and I pulled the rest of the bowl out just to make sure that it would be properly, it would actually work properly in left and right, that it was actually proportionally accurate. I'm doing a big detail pass here with all of the vegetation and the plants, just trying to get more of a solid look. Adding details to the waters, really improving my shadows, thinking about my light sources and what's right or what's wrong about them. You'll see like a little bit of juddering, but it's actually me flipping left and right with the canvas to see what's right, what's wrong. Basically, yeah. So anyways, I'm making sure that the things that I need in the room are in the room. I'm focusing on the lighting, making sure everything's accurate, and yeah. So anyways, I'm pretty close to done here. So I'm checking what it looked like in the old bird room and like what it did a few levels of paintings ago, and then I'm going in and I'm readjusting and refixing everything. At this point, I'm pretty much done to the extent that I'm going to do it for the video. I probably will go and fix it up later. But thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in our comment section. Thanks. Bye.